Morning, guys. It is a beautiful morning here. I think today's high is supposed to be in the low 80s, which is unheard of in July, or at least to me, I think it's unheard of. It's going to be a sunny day. I think there's going to be some rain tonight, but it's been raining quite a bit the last couple days, so probably not going to do any work today out in the pastures or in the trees where it'd be muddy, but I have been trying to get to a project up here by the house and up by the barn for a while, so I think I'm going to tackle it today. If you guys watch our channel much, you've probably seen us working our cattle through this chute from time to time. We use it to vaccinate, we use it to check on our animals, and just routine cattle work. As we've started using this chute system, we've realized that this is going to be the best way to load up our cattle if we ever need to take them anywhere, like the vet or somewhere else. This gate that we put in is a 10-foot gate opening originally, and it would be virtually impossible to get a trailer backed in here. So what we've done, we've replaced the 10-foot gate, which is over there, with a 16-foot gate, a more solid, heavy-duty gate. Hung them up earlier this year, but as you can see, we still got the old stretch. Obviously, we need to move that over. So we got the fence line down here. We've been cautious of when we do it because we almost always have some of our animals in here. But today I'm just going to loosen the wires, pull this old stretch here that was managing the 10-foot gate, and then we'll put a stretch in here at the end of the new gate so we can be able to back our trailer in. So to set the gate, obviously I'm gonna need some concrete bags to set the post. Living on a ranch, you try to keep concrete around, but it looks like I'm down to one bag. Off to town I go, gonna get some concrete, and I'll be back. Really is a beautiful day for a July morning here. Probably should be fishing or something like that. Okay guys, just got back from town, got some concrete, ready to get rolling. Looks like I'm gonna have a couple helpers today. We got Jack and Paige here. We have a secondary stretch brace right here that was in an area originally where we put the horse barn, and so it is an extra. Since this one will have concrete when I pull it out, eventually we'll reuse it, but I don't want to spend the time today breaking the concrete up before I reset it. What we'll do is we'll pull this one and then put that one back in, so my measurements are going to be based off of that one. So the first one I am going to say is going to center right here. We're gonna make that a little bit wider. So it looks like 73 inches. I am going to pull that. The reason I'm doing this now, laying it out before I pull this brace, is I want to make sure we stay in line with the layout of the existing fence and we don't whopper jaw it in any way. So I've marked where I'm gonna put the new brace. So now I'm gonna take down the old wires, and after that we will pull the old stretch brace out. Okay, I have the old wires pulled, so now I'm gonna go get the skid steer. I'm gonna put the hay fork on the skid steer so that I can just kind of go underneath these cross braces on this old stretch. I'll lift it straight up. Everything goes well, it should just pop right out of the ground. Pulling the old brace out was very smooth. Hey Annie, how are you? I will have to fill the holes in, no biggie, and then I'll have to dig out the new holes. I do have an auger, but I'm not gonna use it today. It's just 2 holes. I have some post hole diggers. I'm gonna try to just dig those by hand. Okay guys, I got the new holes dug for the new stretch brace. Couple things, hopefully you saw, I dug them fairly deep, and then I cleaned up around the top of each hole just for a couple things. It makes the concrete more secure, bigger top base. There's a lot of tension that will go on this fence when we finally do the final stretch and tie it off. So you want to make sure you got a good secure hole without a bunch of loose dirt around it. The other thing I did was use that 4x4 to tamp the bottom of the hole. Again, you want a firm hole that you're putting concrete into. That way the stretch brace doesn't settle after you pour the concrete, because there's a bunch of loose dirt in the bottom. The depth of these holes, if you see this bracket on my post hole diggers, that bracket right there, it measures about 32 inches from the tip to there. I always want to set my posts at least 24 inches to 30 inches. So I always use that little bracket as a guide when I'm digging by hand. If that's at the top of the hole, I'm pretty much certain I'm gonna get at least a 30 foot or 30 inch depth on the actual post that goes in the ground in concrete. Okay guys, got the hard part done. I'm getting ready to fill with concrete. Okay guys, the actual stretch brace is perfectly level. Not luck, that's a blessing from God. I don't have to mess with that when I do the concrete fill, but I will have to do what they call plumb, which is up and down, and make sure it's plumb as I pour the concrete in. Got the concrete in. Couple notes I'll make. Again, I use the level to make sure it's plumb This is a repurposed stretch brace. It used to have a gate hanging off of it. So I'll come back later and cut these hinges off. They won't be needed here, obviously, because the hinges are on that side. You can pour bagged concrete without water. I've done probably 100 posts in my life, probably more than that. And probably a third of them I dry poured with bagged concrete. That's frankly because it's probably an area with no running water, no hydrants, no creeks, no ponds, and you just got to get it set. It will set up. I'm a strong believer that if a recipe calls for instance, a chocolate chip cookie, if it calls for chocolate chips is a key ingredient and you don't put them in, it's still going to be a good cookie, but it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be complete. So I do believe if you got access to water, anytime you set a post with bagged concrete, you should be using water. So I just alternated back and forth. I mixed in the hole. I used a piece of rebar that I have left over from a previous project to mix it and make sure it's solid. And another cheat I did, which took me years to figure out. I used to always carry a utility knife to cut bags open. You got a sharpshooter spade anyway, quick and easy, cuts bags quick. I got the new post settings marked now. Started pulling the post, gonna continue to pull them, and then I'll drive them in. Hopefully I could get them pulled by hand. It's rained the last couple days, so the ground's not too bad, but if I can't get them pulled by hand, I'll come back with the skid steer and pull them that way. About 3 of these posts off with clips just to keep the wires up, and then in a couple days we'll come back and stretch them. good feeling that the animals will not squeeze through. So that's going to be it for today. We'll stretch it in a couple days. I'm back here at the fence stretch that I put in a couple days ago, let it set up here. Looks like everything's good and set. I am going to go ahead and stretch the wires out today. Try to wrap up this project. Again, get the wires stretched. Gonna go ahead and cut off these hinge pins and hopefully call the project done. So there's a lot of ways to stretch fence. I don't always have the best way, but I use what I know how to do. Some people use a come along, and there's different types of wire stretchers. I'm mostly accustomed to this old-fashioned farm type of stretcher. It's very simple. It's a ratchet system, kind of similar to an old jack, farm jack. So I'll use this to stretch it out. The problem with these is the bar's not real long, so leverage wise is a little tough to get leverage when it's getting tight. So I'll have a cheater bar here that I'll use to finish it up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this end against the post. That's the stable end. That one doesn't move. And then I am going to adjust this to where it's past barb on the fence. Then I'm going to lock it down, and that'll let me start ratcheting. So I'm going to put a little tension on it, and then I'll unwrap the wire. We'll go ahead and take the wire off. And then we're going to just start tightening it. Well, I mentioned the cheater bar. This is where it's going to come in handy. Gives me a little more leverage. Since this is not a real long stretch, I don't want to over tighten it. If I make it too tight, it's gonna pop the wire. Pretty tight, clear on down to the actual other stretch area. Wire's tight, but since it's gonna get a little slack when I tie it off, I'm gonna give it just one more go. Okay, so we gained probably about 3 inches from where it was at before. So we're going to call that good as far as the stretch. And I am going to cut the wire right after a barb. And then what I'm going to do is take the barb out that's in between. So I'll untwist that. Again, there's probably easier ways to do this. That's great. This is how I know how to do it. So that gives me a wire that I can twist tight without having to worry about the barbs and working around the barbs when I'm trying to make it tight. So I'll make these wires as straight as I possibly can for now. And I'm going to feed it through this eyelet on the side of the post. A lot of stretch braces aren't going to have these eyelets. So what you end up doing is tying it around the actual posts themselves. You would stretch the actual brace and then wrap it around the post a couple times, and then twist it like I'm about to do. But since I do have the eyelets, it makes it extremely convenient. So I'm going to worry about one wire at a time until I get the first wire done, as far as pulling it tight. So I pulled it as tight as I possibly could. My pliers. I'm going to twist it, and then we're just going to wrap around till we run out of that wire. Okay, so we got that. The next step is to let the tension off. So I'm going to pop this. It's going to let the tension off, and then I'll be able to take it off. And that is extremely taut. So I'm very pleased with how that wire turned out. I'm going to do the other three and be back in a minute. All right, got that done. The wires are tied off all the way down, and the fence is extremely taut, all wires. So we are almost done. I am going to cut these gate hinges off, and we're going to call it a wrap.